The pen felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my hand. I stared at the contract on the hospital table, the words blurring together as my mother sobbed quietly in the bed beside me. Leora, please, she whispered, her voice broken. Don't sign it, I'll go to prison, I deserve it, I stole that watch. Mum, stop, my voice cracked. That watch is worth more than we'll earn in our entire lives. They'll destroy you, they'll take everything. Welcome back to Obsessed with Afro-Korean. If this story has you hooked, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. I've got another unforgettable story dropping soon. And while you're here, jump into the comments and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how global this community is. Alright, let's get back to it. The two men standing by the window hadn't moved in 5 minutes. Brothers, they'd said, Korean businessmen, Kale and Dante Choi. One was tall with silver blonde hair and a kind face that didn't match the situation. The other was dark-haired, sharp-featured, and hadn't smiled once since they'd walked into this room. Kale, the blonde one, stepped forward. Miss Murphy, we understand this is difficult, but the alternative is prosecution. Your mother took a watch worth 3 million pounds. The legal consequences would be. I know what they'd be, I snapped. I'm not stupid, I just don't understand why you're offering this instead of just pressing charges. What could you possibly want from me that's worth 3 million pounds? The dark-haired one, Dante, finally spoke. His voice was cold, precise. You have something we need, something irreplaceable. 3 years of your time in exchange for your mother's freedom, all legal charges dropped, and financial security for your family. 3 years of my time doing what? Living with us in Seoul, undergoing medical monitoring, participating in treatment. My stomach dropped. Treatment? What kind of treatment? Are you trafficking people? Is this some kind of... No, Kale's voice was gentle but firm. Nothing like that. We're dying, Miss Murphy. We have a genetic condition that's killing us, and you're the only compatible donor we've found in 5 years of searching. The room spun. Donor, you want my organs? No, Dante said sharply. We need your presence, your proximity. It's complicated and we'll explain everything once you're in Seoul, but we need an answer now. Sign the contract or we proceed with prosecution. If you're already hooked by this impossible choice, hit that subscribe button now. This story is about to take you on a journey you won't believe. Like this video if you want to see what Leora decides, and drop a comment telling us what you would do in her situation. I looked at my mother. She was only 52 but looked 70 after Dad died and left us drowning in debt. She'd taken that watch in a moment of desperation and these men had caught her immediately. Now they held all the cards. If I sign, I said slowly, you guarantee the charges disappear. My mum goes free. Completely, Kale confirmed. We'll also clear your father's remaining debts and provide your mother with a monthly stipend. And after 3 years I'm free to leave. Yes. I picked up the pen. My hand shook so badly I could barely write, but I signed my name on every page they indicated. Leora Catherine Murphy, 22 years old, born and raised in Manchester, never left England, now bound for Seoul to save a mother who was crying like her heart was breaking. I'm so sorry, Mum kept saying. I'm so sorry, baby. It's okay, I lied. It's going to be okay. 3 days later, I boarded a plane to Seoul. The penthouse in Gangnam was nothing like I'd expected. I'd imagined something clinical, sterile white rooms, medical equipment, maybe restraints. Instead, I walked into a space that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, warm wooden floors, art on every wall, and a kitchen bigger than our entire flat back home. Your room is this way, Kale said, carrying my single suitcase like it weighed nothing. He'd been nothing but kind since we'd left London, explaining flight procedures, ordering me food I could actually recognize, asking about my comfort every 20 minutes. Dante hadn't said a word to me in 3 days. My room was enormous. King bed, en-suite bathroom with a tub I could swim in, a balcony with a view that made my chest tight. It was beautiful, it was a cage. You'll have time to settle in, Kale said from the doorway. We don't start treatment for another month. Until then, you're free to explore Seoul, learn Korean if you'd like. We've arranged for a tutor. Twice a week you'll visit our private clinic for blood work and monitoring. Monitoring for what? He hesitated. The bond, we need to track how it develops. What bond? You keep saying these things like I'm supposed to understand, but nobody's actually explained anything. My voice rose despite my best efforts. You paid £3 million for me, you've brought me halfway across the world, you're dying from some mysterious condition, now there's a bond, what the hell is happening? Dante should explain, Kale said quietly. It's complicated and I'm not, he understands it better. Then get him. Kale left and 5 minutes later Dante appeared in my doorway. He looked different, somehow tired, with dark circles under his eyes that I hadn't noticed before. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Sit down, he said. I'd rather stand. Fine, he crossed his arms. My brother and I have a genetic condition, it's fatal. Without intervention, we have approximately 2 years left to live. The condition is rare, only a handful of documented cases in the last century. It's tied to our bloodline, which diverged from standard human genetics roughly 3,000 years ago. I stared at him. You're saying you're not human? Not entirely, neither are you. He pulled out his phone and showed me what looked like genetic sequencing. You carry dormant markers from the same divergent bloodline. It's rare, 1 in every 50 million people. We've been searching for a compatible carrier for 5 years. You're the first we've found. And what does that mean for me? It means your presence stabilizes us biologically, creates a bond that slows our deterioration. He looked directly at me for the first time and his eyes were intense, almost black. The bond requires proximity, emotional connection, and time. It's not romantic, though it can feel that way. It's cellular, necessary. Without it, we die. And what happens to me? You'll feel the effects, heightened senses, dreams you don't recognize, a pull toward us, especially in the beginning. Some carriers experience physical changes, nothing dangerous but noticeable. My legs suddenly felt weak. I sat down on the bed. Previous carriers, there have been others. Something flickered across his face. Yes. What happened to them? They completed their contracts and left. He was lying. I could tell by the way his jaw tightened, the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes, but I was too overwhelmed to push. How long until the bond forms? I asked instead. It's already forming. You'll feel it more strongly over the next few weeks. He moved toward the door. Get some rest. Kale will check on you in the morning. Wait, he stopped. Why me? Out of 50 million people, why did you choose me? We didn't choose you, biology did, and for what it's worth, he paused, his hand on the doorframe. I'm sorry you got caught in this. Then he was gone. The first week was hell. I woke up every morning feeling like my skin was too tight, like something was crawling under my bones. The penthouse felt simultaneously too big and too small. I'd explore for hours, finding libraries and screening rooms and a gym I'd never use, but I always ended up back in my room, doors locked, trying to remember what my life had been like before. Kale left me gifts, a hanbok in deep blue silk, books in English about Korean culture, headphones with a note that said, for when you need to escape. He was trying so hard to make this bearable and I hated him for it. I hated that he was kind. It would have been easier if they were monsters. Dante I barely saw. He left early every morning and came back late. When we did cross paths, he'd nod curtly and disappear into his wing of the penthouse. But I felt him. God, I felt him, like a constant magnetic pull, strongest at night when I couldn't sleep. I'd find myself standing outside his door without remembering walking there. The clinic visits were worse. Dr. Yoon was professional and thorough, taking blood samples and running scans I didn't understand. She'd show me charts of my vitals pointing to numbers that meant nothing to me. The bond is progressing well, she said during my third visit. Your cortisol levels are decreasing, your body is accepting the connection. What if I don't want to accept it? She looked at me with something like pity. That's not really how biology works, Miss Murphy. On day 8 I broke. I'd been trying to make Korean breakfast, something simple from a recipe Kale had left, when everything went wrong. Burned rice, ruined eggs, the smoke alarm screaming. I sank to the kitchen floor and sobbed like a child. That's where Dante found me. Get up, he said. Go away. Get up. His voice was harder this time. When I didn't move, he crouched down in front of me. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I didn't ask for this, I screamed at him. I didn't ask to leave my home, my life, my mother. I didn't ask to be genetically compatible with 2 strangers who are apparently not entirely human. I'm 22 years old and I just signed away 3 years of my life to save my mum from prison, and I don't even know if that was the right choice. He stared at me for a long moment, then, impossibly, his expression softened. No, you didn't ask for this, neither did we, but we're here anyway and you can either fight it every day for 3 years or you can try to make a life here. How? My voice broke. How am I supposed to make a life in a place where I don't speak the language, don't know anyone, and exist solely to keep two people alive? You start small, you learn Korean, you explore the city, you let Kale teach you to cook properly because his breakfast is better than mine and definitely better than whatever you just attempted. He stood and offered me his hand. And you stop locking yourself in your room every night. I took his hand. His skin was warm, almost hot, and the moment we touched, something settled in my chest. The constant anxiety I'd been carrying eased just slightly. He felt it too. I saw it in the way his eyes widened, the way his grip tightened for just a second before he let go. That's the bond, he said quietly. Physical contact strengthens it. Is that why you avoid me? Yes. Why? He didn't answer, he just turned and left, but not before I saw something in his expression, fear, maybe, or longing. I couldn't tell which. After that night, things changed. I stopped hiding. I ate breakfast with Kale, who taught me how to make proper kimchi jjigae and told me stories about growing up in Seoul. I started Korean lessons with a patient tutor named Mrs. Han who didn't ask questions about why I was there. I explored Gangnam, Itaewon, Hongdae, getting lost and finding my way back, slowly building a map of this strange new city in my head. And I watched the brothers, really watched them. Kale was exactly what he appeared to be, warm, optimistic, determined to make this work. He'd leave me notes in Korean with English translations. Good morning, Leora, there's fresh fruit in the kitchen, have a beautiful day. He asked about my mother, my friends back home, my dreams for the future. He made me feel human again. Dante was harder to read. He was intense, brilliant, always working on something I didn't understand. But I caught him watching me sometimes when he thought I wasn't looking. And late at night, when I'd find myself drawn to his door again, I'd hear him packing on the other side as if he felt the same pull. The bond was growing stronger. I could feel them now, their moods, their presence, sometimes even their thoughts bleeding into mine. I started dreaming in Korean before I could speak it fluently. I'd wake up crying from nightmares that weren't mine, feeling grief and fear that belonged to someone else. Is this normal? I asked Dr. Yoon during week 4. Define normal, she said, but she was smiling. The bond affects everyone differently. Some carriers remain relatively independent, others merge more completely. You seem to be somewhere in the middle. And when it's over, when the 3 years are up? Her smile faded. That depends. On what? On whether you want it to end. That thought haunted me for days. Did I want it to end? 6 weeks ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. Now, I wasn't sure. This place was starting to feel like home in ways Manchester never had. I had purpose here, even if that purpose was just keeping two people alive. Then I met the woman in the garden. I'd found a small park near the penthouse, a quiet place with cherry trees and stone benches where I'd go to think. She was sitting on my usual bench, middle-aged Korean with eyes that looked both present and far away at the same time. You're new, she said in perfect English, a carrier. I froze. How did you know? I can always tell. You have the look like you're being pulled in 2 directions at once, she smiled, but it was sad. I was a carrier once for different people, but the bond is the same. Was you completed your contract? No, she looked down at her hands. I broke. The bond was too strong and I wasn't strong enough. Do you know about Hana? My blood went cold. Who's Hana? The carrier before you, the Choi brothers' previous attempt. She leaned closer and I could smell something medicinal on her breath. She lasted 6 months. The bond fractured her mind. Last I heard, she's in a private psychiatric facility, doesn't even remember her own name. That's not, they said the previous carriers completed their contracts and left. They lied. Her hand grabbed mine, grip surprisingly strong. They always lie. The bond isn't just biological, sweetie. It rewrites you, changes you, and if you're not careful, there won't be anything left of who you were. I pulled away and ran all the way back to the penthouse, my heart hammering, my mind screaming. I burst through the door to find Kale in the living room working on his laptop. Leora, what's wrong? Who's Hana? I demanded. His face went white. Where did you hear that name? Answer me, who is she? Dante emerged from his office, drawn by my shouting. What's going on? Hana, I said, turning to him. The woman before me, the one who went insane from the bond, were you planning to tell me or were you just going to wait and see if I broke too? The silence was deafening. Kale stood slowly. Leora, let me explain. Explain what? That you lied to me, that there was another woman who you destroyed and you never thought to mention it. My voice was shaking. I signed that contract thinking I'd give you 3 years and walk away, but that's not true, is it? The bond doesn't just go away, it changes you permanently. We didn't know, Kale said desperately. With Hana, we didn't understand how strong the bond would become. We've learned since then. We've developed protocols, safeguards. Safeguards, she's in a mental institution. Dante stepped forward, his expression hard. Yes, she is, because she fought the bond every single day, tried to sever it forcefully, and it destroyed her. We learned from that. We've been monitoring you carefully, adjusting the progression. You've been experimenting on me. No, he said sharply, we've been protecting you, there's a difference. I want to leave. The words came out before I could think them through. I'm done, I'll pay back the money somehow, but I'm done. I turned toward my room, but I only made it 3 steps before the pain hit. It felt like someone had wrapped barbed wire around my lungs and pulled tight. I gasped, stumbling, and strong hands caught me before I hit the ground. Breathe, Dante commanded, his arms around me, slowly in and out. What's happening? The bond, Kale said, his voice anguished. It's too strong now, your body won't let you leave. The pain eased slightly when Dante held me closer. The bond, recognizing proximity, settling back into place. I wanted to pull away to prove I was still in control of my own body, but I couldn't. I literally couldn't. Let me go, I whispered. I can't, not until you're stable. I hate you, I hate both of you. I know, he said quietly, I would too. Still hooked on this story? Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This bond is about to get even more complicated. Hit that like button if you're feeling Leora's anger right now and comment below, Team Kale or Team Dante, let us know. They carried me to the couch. Kale brought water, hovering anxiously while Dante stayed close enough that our shoulders touched. The contact soothed the pain, which only made me angrier. We should have told you about Hana from the beginning, Kale said finally. That was wrong, we were afraid you wouldn't sign the contract if you knew the risks. You're damn right I wouldn't have. Which is why we lied, and I'm sorry, truly, but Leora, please understand, we were desperate, we're still desperate, without you we die. And with me I might lose my mind. No, Dante's voice was firm. Hana's situation was different. She had pre-existing trauma, psychological vulnerabilities we didn't screen for properly. You're stronger, and we know better now. That's not exactly reassuring. I know, he turned to face me fully. But I'm going to tell you something true, even though it might make things worse. The bond can be severed. It's dangerous, potentially fatal for us, but it's possible. If you truly want to leave, if you're willing to endure the procedure, we'll do it. I stared at him. You'd die. Probably, but you'd be free. Dante, no, Kale started. She deserves the choice, Dante cut him off. A real choice, not one made under duress. Leora, if you want to leave, we'll arrange the severance procedure. I'll undergo it first to minimize the risk to you. You'll be free, your mother will be safe, and the contract will be considered fulfilled. And you'll die. Most likely. I looked between them, Kale with tears in his eyes, Dante with that intense, unflinching gaze that saw straight through me. I thought about Hana in her psychiatric facility, about my mother back in Manchester, about the life I'd left behind. And I thought about the past 6 weeks, the strange sense of belonging I'd started to feel, the way Kale's laughter made me smile and Dante's rare moments of softness made my chest tight. I need time, I said finally. I need to think. Take all the time you need, Dante said. I spent 3 days locked in my room. Kale left food outside my door with handwritten apologies. Dante left nothing, but I could feel him standing on the other side of the door sometimes, his presence like a weight against my chest. The bond pulled at me constantly, begging me to open the door, to seek proximity, to give in. On the 4th day, I emerged, not because I'd forgiven them but because I'd made a decision. They were both in the living room when I walked in and they looked terrible. Kale's face was gaunt, dark circles under his eyes. Dante looked worse, his skin had taken on a grayish pallor and his hands shook slightly when he set down his coffee. You're dying faster, I said, it wasn't a question. The bond requires proximity, Kale said quietly. When you isolate yourself, we deteriorate more quickly, but that's not your fault. You needed space. How long do you have without me? Days maybe, Dante said bluntly, a week at most. I sat down across from them. I'm not leaving, not because I've forgiven you for lying and not because I'm okay with what you did, but because I'm not a murderer and that's what leaving would make me. Relief flooded Kale's face. Leora, thank you. I'm not finished. My voice was steel. If I'm staying, things change. No more lies, no more keeping information from me for my own good. I want full access to all medical records, all research on the bond, everything about Hana's case, and I want to visit her. That's not a good idea, Dante said. I don't care if I'm risking the same fate. I deserve to see what I'm risking. Those are my terms. Take them or start planning your funerals. They exchanged a look, then Kale nodded, agreed, all of it. Visiting Hana broke something in me. The facility was beautiful, pastoral, peaceful, more like a spa than a psychiatric hospital. But beauty couldn't hide what it was. The nurse led us to a sunlit room where a woman sat by the window staring at nothing. She was young, maybe 30, with long black hair and delicate features. She looked perfect and completely empty at the same time. Hana, the nurse said gently, you have visitors. No response, not even a flicker of recognition. Does she ever speak? I asked. Sometimes she hums, occasionally she'll say a word or two, but they don't connect to anything. The bond fractured her sense of self. She knows she exists but not who she is. I sat down across from her. Hana, my name is Leora, I'm like you, a carrier. For just a moment her eyes focused on me. Carrier, she whispered, then clearer, it burns and it pulls and it never stops. What burns? The bond, the need, two souls, one heart, breaking. Her voice rose to a scream and nurses came running with sedatives. I left before they administered them. I couldn't watch. In the car, Dante sat beside me while Kale drove. She fought it, he said quietly, tried to sever the bond herself without medical supervision, took pills she thought would break the connection. Instead, it shattered her mind. And you think I won't do the same? I think you're smarter than that, and I think, he paused, I think you might actually want to stay. I didn't answer because he was right, and that terrified me. The months that followed were strange and beautiful and complicated. I stopped fighting the bond and let it settle into my bones. With acceptance came clarity. I could feel Kale's emotions like background music, joy when I laughed, worry when I was quiet, love that was gentle and constant. Dante was harder to read, his feelings buried deep, but sometimes I'd catch flashes of intensity that took my breath away. I started working with them. Their company developed medical technology and they needed someone to review contracts, organize research. I was good at it, better than I'd expected. Kale praised every success. Dante pushed me harder, expected more, and somehow that meant more than any compliment. I learned Korean fluently, traveled through Seoul and beyond, always with one or both of them nearby because the bond required it, but it stopped feeling like a leash and started feeling like partnership. And slowly, terrifyingly, I fell in love with them. Not the bond was biological, necessary, a foundation, but what grew on top of it was real. Kale's kindness and optimism, the way he left me notes and remembered everything I said. Dante's fierce intelligence, the way he challenged me and trusted me and looked at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. One night 6 months in, Kale found me on the balcony. Can't sleep, he asked. Too much thinking. He stood beside me close enough that our arms touched. The bond hummed contentedly. What are you thinking about? That I'm happy, I admitted, and I don't know if that's me or the bond talking. Does it matter? Yes, because I need to know if this is real or just biology hijacking my brain. He turned to face me. Leora, the bond creates connection, but it doesn't create feelings. What you feel for us, what we feel for you, that's real. The bond just made it possible. And when the contract ends, what happens then? That's up to you. He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his touch gentle. The bond is permanent now. It won't fade with distance, but you could still leave if you wanted to, build a life elsewhere. We'd survive. Would you want me to stay? More than anything? His voice was raw with honesty. I love you, Leora, not because you're keeping us alive, because you're you. brilliant and stubborn and brave and kind. I've loved you since you burned breakfast and cried on the kitchen floor. I'll love you when the contract ends and every day after that." He kissed me then, soft and sweet and perfect, and I kissed him back, letting myself feel everything without fear. Dante was different. It took another month before he approached me, and when he did, it wasn't with words. I found him in his office late one night, staring at screens filled with data I'd learned to read. The bond had been aching all day, not painful, just insistent, pulling me toward him. "You should be sleeping," he said without looking up. "So should you. Can't too much work." I walked around his desk and turned his chair to face me. "Talk to me, really talk to me, not about work or the bond or logistics. Tell me what you're feeling." His jaw tightened. "That's not." "Dante," I put my hands on his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. "I love your brother, and I think I love you too, but you keep pushing me away and I need to know why." "Because I'm afraid," he said finally, the words torn from somewhere deep. "I'm afraid that you'll wake up one day and realize this isn't what you wanted, that the bond trapped you into feeling things you wouldn't have felt otherwise, and I can't," his voice broke. "I can't lose you. I almost died before you came. I'll definitely die if you leave, but worse than dying would be having you here and knowing you hate us for it." "I don't hate you," I whispered. "I did at first. God, I was so angry, but that's not what this is anymore. You saved my mother, you gave me a life I never would have had, you've treated me like a partner, not property. And yes, the bond brought us together, but what I feel when I look at you, that's not biology, that's choice." He pulled me into his lap and kissed me like a drowning man finding air, desperate and fierce and full of everything he never said out loud. And I understood then that this complicated, brilliant, broken man loved me in ways he didn't have words for. The 3 years passed faster than I'd expected. I grew into myself in Seoul, confident, capable, fluent in 2 languages, integral to the company's research division. My mother visited twice, staying for weeks each time, and I could see she was thriving too. The guilt had faded, replaced by pride in what I'd built. Dr. Yoon confirmed what I already knew: the bond was permanent and stable. "You could maintain it from anywhere in the world now," she said during my final contracted checkup. "The foundation is strong enough. Physical distance would be uncomfortable but not dangerous." "So I could leave?" "Technically yes, but Leora," she smiled, "why would you want to?" The contract end date came on a rainy Tuesday. I woke up to find both brothers in the kitchen making breakfast together, a tradition we'd developed over the years. They looked at me with identical expressions of carefully controlled anxiety. "Morning," Kale said too casually. "Sleep well." "Stop being weird," I said, pouring coffee. "Yes, I know the contract ends today. No, I haven't decided what I'm doing." That was a lie. I decided months ago, but they deserved to sweat a little after everything we'd been through. "We have something for you," Dante said, sliding an envelope across the counter. "Regardless of what you choose." Inside were 3 items: a new passport with a Korean visa valid for permanent residence, stock certificates making me a full partner in their company, and a plane ticket to Manchester dated for next week. "The ticket is one way," Kale explained. "If you want to go home, see your mother, take time to think, we'll wait. If you want to stay there, build a life in England, we'll support that too. And if you want to come back, you'll be here," I finished. "Always," Dante said quietly. I looked at these 2 men who'd bought me to save themselves and somehow became my family. Kale with his gentle optimism and terrible dad jokes. Dante with his fierce intelligence and the softness he showed only to me. They'd given me everything: freedom, purpose, love, and were prepared to let me walk away. "I'm going to Manchester next week," I said, and I watched their faces fall. "To visit my mum, to see my friends, to remember who I was before all this, and then I'm coming back because this is my home now, you're my home." The relief on their faces was almost comical. Kale actually laughed, pulling me into a hug that lifted me off my feet. Dante's smile was smaller but no less real. "You're sure?" he asked. "I've never been more sure of anything." I looked between them. "I choose this, I choose you, both of you, not because of the bond or the contract or obligation, because I love you and I want to build a life here." "Even though it's complicated?" Kale asked. "Especially because it's complicated. Normal is overrated anyway." 2 years later, I stood in a private garden in Seoul wearing a hanbok that Kale had commissioned in deep blue silk. My mother sat in the front row, crying happy tears. Mrs. Han, my tutor-turned-friend, stood beside her. Dr. Yoon was there, along with the entire company leadership team who'd become like family. And in front of me stood Kale and Dante, both in traditional Korean formal wear, looking at me like I was their entire world. "This isn't legally binding," the officiant said in Korean, which I understood perfectly now. "Korean law doesn't recognize plural marriages, but what we do here today is a commitment witnessed by those who love you, a choice made freely and celebrated openly." I'd written my own vows. 3 years ago, I signed a contract that I thought would save my mother and cost me everything. Instead, it gave me everything. It gave me purpose, partnership, and a love I never knew existed. Kale, you taught me that kindness is strength. Dante, you taught me that vulnerability is courage. Together, you taught me that family isn't about blood or biology or even choice sometimes. It's about showing up every day and choosing each other again. Kale was crying. Dante's hand found mine and squeezed. "I choose you," I said, "today and every day after, not because a bond demands it but because my heart does." They spoke their vows, Kale's poetic and emotional, Dante's brief and devastating in its honesty. And when we sealed it with a kiss, both of them, I felt the bond sing with joy, not controlling us, not demanding anything, just celebrating what we'd built on its foundation. The reception was small and perfect. My mother cornered me at one point, her eyes searching my face. "Are you happy, darling, truly?" "I am, Mum, I really am. I'm sorry for what started all this, the watch, the debt." "Don't be. If it hadn't happened, I'd still be in Manchester working a job I hated, dreaming of a life I'd never have. You gave me this. Accidentally, desperately, but you gave it to me anyway." She hugged me tight. "You're extraordinary, Leora. Your father would be so proud." That night, back at the penthouse that had become home, I stood on the balcony with both of them. The city sparkled below us, full of possibilities. "No regrets?" Dante asked. "Only one," I said. They both tensed. "I regret that I wasted those first few weeks being miserable when I could have been getting to know you sooner." Kale laughed. "You were kidnapped by genetics and forced to live with strangers. I think some misery was justified." "Maybe, but I'm not miserable now." "No," Dante agreed, pulling me close. "None of us are." The bond hummed contentedly in my chest, not a chain, not a prison, but a foundation for something beautiful and strange and entirely our own. I'd been bought for 3 years and chose to stay for a lifetime, and I'd never been freer. If you made it to the end of this wild journey, you're the real MVP. Smash that subscribe button for more stories that'll keep you up at night in the best way. Drop a like if Leora's choice surprised you, and comment below, would you have signed that contract? Could you have fallen in love under these circumstances? Let's talk about it. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you in the next story.